So the iPhone 17 Pro Max is kind of unhinged. It does the elite things to a disgustingly high level, and it does the basics to a weird, sometimes great, sometimes vastly under par standard. Yeah, this phone is mental, and I want to dig into just why this wacky phone is sort of what I've been asking for perhaps half a decade at this point. I want to kick things off with the camera system because this might be the strangest of all the changes here. It's the same main and ultra wide as last year, but this time with an 18 megapixel square selfie camera that lets you take portrait and landscape shots in both portrait and landscape orientation, same for video. And there's also a new 4x 1/2.55 inch telephoto camera that barely catches up to the Pixel and Samsung setups that we've been used to for the past 2 to 3 years at this point. But also, this camera can shoot ProRes RAW externally, which means the square root of f all to anyone but the most enthusiastic or professional videographers that use an iPhone. There is a lot to unpack here. Today's video is sponsored by CyberGhost VPN. With over 38 million users worldwide and over 20,000 excellent reviews on Trustpilot, it's one of the best VPNs out there. Keeping your internet browsing private is something that should be pretty important in the age of constant data scraping. Whether you're browsing at home or on public Wi-Fi, bad actors are going to be bad actors. And that's where CyberGhost VPN comes in. Simply select one of their over 100 locations before you browse to encrypt and reroute all of your traffic through their secure servers. This way, no one will even know about your online activity. CyberGhost also unlocks geo-restricted games and content from over 40 streaming platforms like Netflix, Amazon Prime and Disney+, and you can even score better deals online by simply changing your virtual location. And since it works on up to 7 concurrent devices, you can load it up on your phone, tablet, computer, even smart TV device, perfect for sharing with friends and family. With our link in the description, you can get their best deal ever. Just $2.03 a month plus 4 months for free, which is 84% off. There's even a 45-day money back guarantee, so you have nothing to lose. Anyway, back to the video. I've taken a lot of photos and videos with the 17 Pro Max, and I think the most succinct way I can sum it up is this. The iPhone still has an incredibly capable camera, and one that will possibly deliver fantastic results in stills and movies. But it isn't as powerful as Samsung's or Google's camera systems, outside of ProRes and ProRes RAW options, but we'll talk about that shortly. Apple's computational photography and color science isn't quite at the level of the competition. This is also subjective maybe, so you might prefer the way Apple does its color processing, even if from a technical standpoint it really isn't at the races. Don't get me wrong, this is not a bad camera, it's fantastic, one of the better ones, but it isn't the king. And that's worth noting when making a smartphone purchasing decision because, well, this thing costs £1,200, so it's worth knowing as much as possible about it before spending a fortune. I found that in quite typical iPhone fashion, images came out quite inoffensive, you know. The contrast was toned down, not washed out, but definitely not as much pop as you'd expect from a Google or a Samsung. Though I'm a big fan of using photographic styles to nail your desired look in the camera app, or even after the fact, after you've taken the photo. And the selfie camera, whilst I really don't think is a major upgrade in image quality this year, is definitely useful in its reorientable versatility. Big fan of that. I think we'll probably see more of that coming to other phones on the Android side. I've actually done an in-depth comparison with the new 4x telephoto and compared it with the Pixel and the Galaxy on Android Police, so I do recommend you check out that video for the very fine detail because it is fascinating. However, the reality is that the new long lens on this phone isn't nearly as capable as the competition. It really shows. It's by no means a small margin, it's still far behind Google and Samsung. But that didn't stop me taking loads of photos and videos with it, and some of that came out quite good. It's not all doom and gloom, but again, just know you're not getting the best telephoto in a smartphone that's 1200 quid. Now, switching gears to video for a minute, this is where the iPhone typically shines. By default, out of the box, the video can go up to Ultra HD 4K 120, which is really nice, and it's all done internally. No cloud software and no external recording. This is some of the best video, but I'd actually say that Google's Video Boost, if you do use the cloud setup, is the best. And Samsung's Auto Video definitely isn't trailing behind the iPhone these days either. It is also very comparable. Where the iPhone comes into its own is shooting pro level video. Samsung can now sort of do this as well with its log recording options, but I'd say that ProRes and ProRes RAW recording with the iPhone is definitely the best, and I think it takes the pinnacle. For those who don't know, this disables the dynamic tone mapping that makes most smartphone video kind of look like smartphone video, kind of crappy. Instead, it leaves everything natural so that you can choose to boost things in post if you want to, or just apply a Rec. 709 conversion and your footage will look more like something that was taken with a real camera and not a smartphone that does loads and loads of processing to it. I've graded these clips just with a Rec. 709 from Buttery LUTs, so I have no link or affiliation, so do your own research on which kind of LUTs you want and buy those. I have absolutely no LUTs to sell you in this video. But needless to say, the footage coming out of modern iPhones is incredible, it is unparalleled. Thankfully, DaVinci Resolve now actually supports ProRes RAW natively, even on Windows, which made this whole reviewing process possible. Files are huge, as you would probably expect, but for the best mobile footage possible, I think it's hard to argue with. One thing I'm desperate to point out on this thing is that the iOS 26 camera app is just frustrating at best and simply bad design at worst. An unsuspecting user might think that these are the only two options, but actually, the rest of them are hidden in a carousel behind a software mask. Not intuitive in the slightest. Fix your crappy software design, Apple, that is not intuitive at all. iOS 26 in general is going through a bit of a teething phase. AirDrop is faster now, which is very useful. It's how I transferred all of these to my laptop, and then I transferred them from my laptop to my PC because for some reason when you plug this directly into a Windows computer it still doesn't want to let you transfer the files. Very nice, Apple. And obviously iOS 26 has some very cool light refraction elements, but I also think the software is trying so hard to compete with Google and Samsung that it's sort of tripping over itself in a panic. Apple's AI suite just isn't nearly as good as Google's. This makes itself known in stuff you might not use much, like Emoji Playground or whatever they're calling it these days, but also like the camera zoom capabilities. And Siri just isn't up there. Apple has fallen very badly behind in these areas. Its software is arguably the worst, which is kinda nuts. Battery life is another story though. This is maybe the best battery life I have ever had in a smartphone. Like, it's ridiculous. Its physical cell isn't nearly as big as what you might find in like a OnePlus 12 or 13, but whatever Apple is doing with its software mixed with the A19 Pro chip that runs the show, yeah, this phone is a 2-day phone for me every single time. It is phenomenal. Though charging isn't exactly rapid, if you charge your phone overnight, this should be absolutely fine, but if you have to quickly top it up, it's not going to compete with like anything coming out of China. What might not be so fine is that this phone suffers from scratchgate. Have you noticed throughout this entire video I have not taken this out of its case apart from for B-roll. I'm leaving this case on as long as I possibly can, because you will find reports all over the internet about this phone scratching the absolute heck out of itself within seconds of taking it out of the box if you're not careful. This is not a good look for such an expensive smartphone. I have this generic case on it. I'm not going to recommend you go and buy a specific case, just pick whatever you want. And I will be putting a screen protector on it. However, I haven't been running a screen protector so far, and well, the screen's been holding up really nicely. So pretty good ceramic shield too, or whatever they've put on the front of this thing. Here's a tinfoil hat moment for you. iPhone trade-ins have been really generous the past few years. I actually got this phone for $600 by trading in my old iPhone 16 Pro Max. I got $600 off. Is this new, very easily scratchable and damageable shell designed to decrease people's very generous trade-in values year on year? I'm just saying, I wouldn't put it past this company to do that. Allegedly, of course. The screen though, it's phenomenal. Super bright, punchy colours, fluid at 120 Hz, and efficient being an LTPO panel to bring that refresh rate down when needed. Like, the bezels are tiny, which helps. I think the phone looks really quite futuristic from the front, especially with this orange flavour. Though I'd have hoped for a smaller Face ID cutout this time around because it's loud and proud at the top of the display. When are they going to be able to shrink that? A bit like Apple with its performance and its design. To address the former first, this phone is one of the faster phones on the market. It can't compete with Qualcomm Snapdragon 8 Elite Gen 5 in the supposed benchmarks. Though when I was using the iPhone 17 Pro Max, I found it ran as well as I realistically expected it to run basically anything, and what I would expect from a 4-figure smartphone. Though sure, it has flaws, times where in 3D games it kind of hiccups a little bit, but overall it's really fast and will probably remain so for the next 5-6 years probably. And its physical hardware, well, I don't think this looks particularly good. I don't know, let me know in the comments, am I just out of the loop with this thing? The extended camera bump at the top I know enables more hardware up there, and it leaves the rest of the phone, the belly of the phone, to really have more battery in there, which is great. I really appreciate that. But from an aesthetic standpoint, I just feel like Steve Jobs wouldn't have let this get past him. Like, this just isn't a very good looking smartphone, especially compared to the competition. And the split aluminium and glass panel on the back here, well, the colours don't really gel. In certain light you will find they match quite nicely, but in most other scenarios it's such a jarring change in the shade of orange. I don't think it looks great at all. Like, this is maybe one of the most ugly iPhones ever made. It's crazy. As we know, of course, the body is soft, it scuffs and chips super easily, so that's really good for the iPhone. This feels very anti-Apple. It's bizarre. This video I made not long ago about Apple losing its edge, it kind of feels like the iPhone is continuing to do it. It feels like that's very much a relevant take with this iPhone still. Not that the 17 Pro Max is an awful device you should never buy, far from it. For serious videographers, it's a powerhouse. For those with expensive taste, it will appeal too. The battery life is world class, and I do mean that. The display is top 5. The iPhone users, well, they're just going to go and buy iPhones, aren't they? I think this year though, the base model is the one to go for, unless you are absolutely adamant on having a big screen or a better camera system. And be sure to check out the link in the video description and the pinned comment to CyberGhost's great deals right now.